Welcome to This Week in Morgan County. I'm your host, Russell Mokhiber. Our guest this week, Darren Barney. Darren is running for county commission here in Morgan County on the Republican ticket. He'll be facing off against Ken Reed and Jimmy Stewart on May 10th. If you want to vote in that election, you either have to be a Republican or no party and pick the Republican ballot. Darren, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Born and raised here?
Yes.
Parents, what was their work?
Well, my mother was a stay-at-home mom after I was born. My father was in electronics, worked for the cable company in Hagerstown, then he worked for Tri-State Cable in Hancock.
What part of the county are you in?
I live on Highland Ridge.
And you were born there?
No, I was actually born in Winchester because they quit delivering babies up here back in the 60s.
You're a graduate of Berkeley Springs High School, 1982?
83.
83. Describe for us your career trajectory. What have you been doing?
Well, after that, I went to James Rumsey, did electronics like my father, got a job down in the city. I don't have a suit and tie on today because they made me wear a suit and tie, and I'm not a suit and tie kind of person. I think there are occasions for that, but not at work. And so I worked down there for a little while and hated it. Was a disc jockey in high school, so I came back to work at the radio station, which was WCST at the time.
How long were you a disc jockey?
About 6 years, probably.
Rock and roll?
No, it was country then.
Okay.
I actually like country music. I like a lot of music. I mean, there's a lot to be grasped from classical. I mean, you know. And on the other hand, I like, unfortunately, my wife thinks I'm nuts, but some of the groups of today have a good sound.
And you got the Elvis sideburns.
I got Elvis sideburns on.
Elvis?
You've probably seen me. I've walked around town dressed like Elvis.
You're an Elvis impersonator?
No. My wife and I are just big fans, and we've been to the nursing home, and you should see the look on some of these people, the faces of these people when they, you know.
When they see Elvis walk in.
Even though I don't look like Elvis, but I'm dressed like Elvis. I mean, I have the suit. I mean, 1972 circa with the, you name it, it's cape and all.
Are you campaigning in the Elvis suit?
No. I put out some signs the other day just for the fun of it. And my wife took some pictures and put them on Facebook. But,
all right, so you did disc jockeying.
I did the disc jockey. Of course, I had my electronics background. Took my FCC Class 1 license test and failed it, which everybody fails the first time. I got like a 67 or 68 on it. It's a very difficult test. And was studying to take it again, and the FCC was deregulated, and you no longer needed a Class 1 license to run a radio station. So I did some engineering for the local station for a couple years. Left there, was unemployed for a little bit, got hired by Sealy Furniture one day because I went out for some scrap wood, and the general manager asked me, "Are you as good at building furniture as your father was?" Because my dad used to do some repairs of antiques for Tom Sealy before Tom was who he is or was. So, well, I need a job, I'll work here. So I worked there for a little while, and I started a little business selling shelves and candle holders called Country Traditions, which morphed into a bigger company which manufactured furniture, and we sold all up and down the East Coast. I never had more than 13 employees. We were never that large. Just about the time I thought we were going to break through, free trade with China was signed, and I was no big money machine. I couldn't survive the 47 cents an hour wages that they were paying the Chinese people. So that was the end of that. In the meantime,
that's the national politics biting you right here in Berkeley Springs.
Oh, definitely, 100%. I mean,
but for that trade agreement, you would have.
I would have probably still be in the furniture business. Yeah, probably so. And I would have probably still overlapped with hot tubs because I kind of backed into the hot tub business. I had never been in one, and we stayed in a motel room that had a hot tub, and I liked it. So I said, well, why don't we start selling them? And we did really well. I thought I'd retire from that. So if we're ready for biting me in 2008, I didn't see that coming. And I consider myself pretty ahead of the curve most of the time. But let me tell you, in 2009, my sales dropped 45% off the top.
Because of the recession.
Because of the
recession. Because of the fraud on Wall
People
Street. So those two big issues that are on the national scene right now, that both Bernie Sanders and Trump are addressing, free trade with China wiped out your furniture business. The fraud on Wall Street wiped out your spa business.
Exactly. It's not a pretty picture, but what do you do? We survived a couple more years in that business, but I mean, people couldn't buy or pay their grocery bill, let alone come to my store and buy a hot tub. I mean, they may want one, but if you got to prioritize there. And unfortunately, I wasn't on the top of the list. The list is family first, and that's what it should be.
And those two issues, which hurt you directly, are national issues. Why aren't you running for national office like Congress or Senate?
I would love to, someday. I've already told my wife. We'll see how this goes. I think that there are things to be done. I personally believe that the country is still reversible. I think we've headed down a path that needs to be changed. And I just asked two people less than an hour ago, do we live in a republic or a democracy? And most people have to stop and think about that. And I'm thinking, come on, think back. Think back to when you used to put your hand on your heart in school and say, I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands. We live in a republic, not a democracy. If you have a full-fledged democracy, that's 2 wolves and 1 sheep voting for dinner. And we all know what they're going to have. The sheep's on the menu, the lamb. That's not a good thing. The problem is, and that's the problem I feel with the Bernie Sanders, is too much socialism. I mean, it's too much give. And unfortunately, where are they going to get the money? Oh, the government can keep printing money. That's just wonderful. Then we have hyperinflation. We're there now. I mean, we're right at the tip of the iceberg.
Now you're running for county commissioner, so we're not.
I know.
We're not going to talk single payer, are we?
Yeah, no.
Do you want to talk single payer?
No, I don't.
Okay, you don't. Okay.
I'm totally.
Because I would debate you on single payer, but we don't want to talk single payer.
I've seen some of your interviews and talks with that.
Okay, so let's not talk single payer, because most of the world has everybody covered, and it's a lot cheaper than what we pay here. So from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, you would think. And we interviewed a businessman from Pennsylvania who started a businessman's group for single payer because businesses are being wiped out. I mean, if you had
it is destroying them.
And it's Obamacare, which keeps the insurance companies at the center of it and drives them out. But let's talk local politics. Anyway, so what are you doing now, by the way? So
Actually, I had a CDL license and had a water truck. We used to deliver pool water. So I got the bright idea. I'd helped a friend of mine move some cars because I have a class license, Class B license at the time. Had to upgrade that to an A. I bought a truck, and actually I'm driving a truck hauling cars all over the country.
How much? Now, you're going to keep your day job if you're elected county commissioner.
I want out of the trucking business. I'll probably hire a driver.
How much does a county commissioner get paid?
It varies. They keep telling me different things. I wasn't really worried about that. I just needed some base salary to keep me home.
It doesn't vary, though. There's a
No, it varies in who tells me what. So
okay.
in other words, I don't know if there are benefits or anything. I'm not going into this for the benefits.
Do you know what the salary is?
I was told it was in the upper 30s. I'm not, isn't that dumb? I'm not really positive. Mainly because we just recently started another business. So I'm working on
What is that?
Yeah, it's called Roscoe's Bargain Outlet. It's just
where is it?
It's in the old Largent building, just past the Dairy Queen.
Okay.
And my son and I are running that, so it's a family business, and we're just looking for another source of income and maybe help some people out in the county because we sell things for a lower price. But I'm not here to advertise that.
What is your vision for Morgan County? What do you want the county to look like?
I would like to see us get some industry here without destroying the county, and I know we can do it. I mean, I've traveled just about every state in the country, and you can drive in rural Indiana and be passing Amish buggies and come around a bend, and there's a factory. If they can do it, we can do it. You can cross the border into Fulton County and on up into Pennsylvania, and they've got industry, and it's not destroying the environment.
What kind of industry would you bring here?
Anybody that's willing to come is not going to destroy things.
Do you have any ideas on how you would do it?
Pretty much the way I've done about everything. I told you I was in the furniture business. We flooded out from 92 to 96 like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we had 30 inches of water in my factory one time. Went to the Small Business Administration disaster people, and they turned me down for a loan. So needless to say, I tracked down Channel 9 News, who happened to be up here doing a story. So I'm a door knocker. It's not going to come to you. You need to go to them. And that's what we need to do, is present the county in a favorable light as a viable opportunity for these factories to come here. There are a lot of people that don't have jobs, And quite honestly, without offending a bunch of people, there are a lot of people that don't work. They're lazy. Leave them out of it. They're always going to be lazy. These are the people that are probably going to vote for Bernie Sanders. And I'll probably lose some votes saying that, but it's true.
Do you think that Bernie Sanders supporters are lazy?
No, I think that they've gotten lulled into the fact that they think that the government owes them something. And the government doesn't owe them anything but what the initial rules written in the Constitution were, which, is very straightforward.
How would you describe your politics?
Well, I guess some people would think I'm a little radical. I'm not, I don't know how to put it. I would consider myself a social and fiscal conservative. I don't look down on people because of how they believe. I don't look down on people because of their sexual preferences. I think that's your own choice. I may not agree with everything that goes on. I don't agree with everything that goes on in the world, but you know what? In the car business that I'm doing now, I run into people all the time. People from Afghanistan, people from Iraq, you name it, every country in the world. These people are here for jobs, they're here for education, and I talk to them, just like we're talking right now. And you know what? We all just want to get along. Generally, it's the big governments that are causing all the trouble. And I think locally, we need to get our community back, get it prosperous and strong, get a good tax base going to where we don't have to keep taxing the homeowners so much. It's an industry.
What do you like about what the county commission is doing, and what don't you like about what they're doing?
Well, I'm not complaining too much about what they've done. I think, actually, I think Brad is a very fiscally conservative person. I think he's done a fine job. I was really surprised when he wasn't going to run again. As soon as I found out, I decided I was going to. I wouldn't have ran against him.
How do you see the differences between yourself and your opponents?
Well, I haven't seen Jimmy Stewart for years, so I don't know how he is now.
You were in high school with him.
I was in high school. He's a couple years older than me. I think, of course, he went into the military and went away.
You haven't met him on the campaign trail?
No, I have not. No, okay. I haven't seen him in years, and works that way with a lot of people you go to school with. But for me, I just know that I'm kind of like a bulldog. I'm tenacious, and when I want to do something, I do it. And I think there's a way to do things. It's like the Walmart. A lot of people. I'm not a big Walmart fan. I do think they come in and take away from jobs. They support China for sure. But the reality of it is, if we don't get it, allow a Walmart to come here, it's going to come to Fulton County or Washington County, and there goes the tax base. It goes over there, not over here. So if you're going to have it, you're going to have it anyway. Why not have it here where it'll
You would
boost the
agree
local
with Bob
economy?
Ford to put it in the north part of the county or something like that?
Well, someplace. I mean, I'm not going to be the one to tell them where to put it, but they have...
But you would encourage them to come to Morgan County?
Under the right circumstances. Under the right circumstances.
Do you have any sense whether there's a Tractor Supply going in southern part of the town, or 5 miles south of town? Do you have any sense what impact that might have on the locally owned businesses? Now, you're a local...
It worries me. But there again, it's another situation where if they didn't get it here, it would go to Hancock.
But you would have an open door policy to all the big box stores.
No. We'd have to really sit and look at things. I mean, do you remember several years back, I'm not sure how long you've lived here, but do you remember when the guy wanted to come here and he was going to buy the building out there, Compton's building, and he wanted to make pressure cross ties out of plastic?
I don't remember that now.
Okay. Well, it looked like a good thing on the cover until you did a bunch of investigating. And when you found out the truth was he had all kinds of violations with the EPA. And I think that you can't just jump into anything. You need to follow the trail back with every business that wants to come here and see what they support, what they're going to do for the county, what they're not going to do for the county, and say they are, because if they have a track record, it's going to follow them someplace. So we need to investigate, and unfortunately, you're going to have to give a little bit. You're not always going to get what you want.
Have you spoken to the EDA people, the Economic Development Authority people? Because there seems to be some kind of tension between them.
No, I haven't. I dealt with them myself for years, trying to make my business grow, but there really wasn't a whole lot they could do to help me. Quite honestly, for years I got turned down by the banks for loans for Country Traditions. And they'd tell me, oh, you got to do this, you've got to do that. And I kind of backdoored my way into that. I started making phone calls and worked my way through the Small Business Administration. And they can't tell you they'll make you a loan, but I finally got one to tell me that if you find a bank that'll make the loan, we'll make you the loan. So then I went to the bank, and the bank said, well, the SBA will never back it. And I said, oh, yes, they will. Here's the man's name. He told me that if I can find a bank, they'll back it.
Did that do it?
Sure they did.
And this is what I'm fascinated about. You're a small businessman. You were wiped out twice by international economic forces. And given,
why would I support a Walmart?
One, and two, given that, given that background, what can you do as county commissioner, given the international and national forces, to develop, that's the ideal, develop locally owned businesses, don't you agree?
Oh, I'm 100% for that. I mean, my goodness, if I had a choice between a big box store and somebody local that could grow, I'm going to take the local guy. But unfortunately, there's a handful of us left. I mean, think of how many factories are in this county. Think of how many factories are in this county that most people don't know exist, like Sleepy Creek Manufacturing. You know, they've been there a long time, but most people don't know they're there.
They make what?
They make little traps, don't they? Hunting traps or something.
And Gat Creek?
Oh, he's done really well. I've been impressed with him. I'm sincerely, he's survived the economy.
That's an interesting model, right?
Oh, yes. Well, he morphed the company a little bit with the times and changed the look from the traditional look that Sealy had. And he's done rather well with it, and still remains a viable employer in the county. And I would do everything I can to support them. I mean,
what other than Gat Creek? What are the local models that you see that we should emulate?
Well, there aren't too many. There's not much left. Everything's gone. I mean, you know, and this is another county, but the sewing factories went away from Hancock. And everything goes with errors. So, I mean, look around here. We were big into canning back in the 20s and 30s. I mean, this was like tomato world here. And they canned tomatoes, and that business went away. So we just need to learn to move a little bit in a direction and change.
Have you followed the dispute over Dollar General with the southern part of the county?
A little bit.
And what are your thoughts on that?
I'm a firm believer that it's your land and you should be able to do what you want. I wouldn't, if they were selling the land and going to use it for a strip club, I'd be opposed to that.
So you can't use it for when you say use it as you wish, you don't mean
well, I
as
do
you wish.
to the point
you
of
would draw
moral.
a line.
There are some moral things here that I would not want.
You would draw a line.
I would draw a line.
So everybody draws their line.
Yeah.
So you don't mean that property owners can do as they wish. You don't really mean that.
Well, no, I don't want people out there and saying, "Oh, I just changed oil in my truck. Let's dump the oil on the ground." You know, I'm not.
Right. You do draw a line. Everybody does.
Oh yeah, everybody draws.
That's
a line.
what I'm saying. When people say property owners can do what they want, they don't mean that.
Well, I mean, we all have restrictions and guidelines, and no matter what, you're always going to have that. I mean, the government sets basics in line that we can't do. I mean, I can own my piece of property out on Highland Ridge, but I can't declare it an independent nation.
It's fascinating when you ask people around here, people don't say, I want to live in Hagerstown or I want to live in Martinsburg. They want to live here because of the small town feel, the low crime rate. And there is a tipping point once you introduce, they're like the strip malling of America, right? There is that tipping point. Are you concerned about that? And how, as a commissioner, would you prevent that from happening? Or do you think that's secondary to bringing in economic growth?
It is possible that could happen, but it's a good ways down the line. I think we could control the growth. Because in reality, you get a Walmart, you're going to end up with a couple more restaurants and other stores that feed off the Walmart traffic. Unfortunately, as a very good previous president said, you can't please everybody. And it's pretty much impossible. Money doesn't grow on trees, and everybody's taxed to death already. So unfortunately, the lesser of the two evils at this point, from my perspective, would be we need more jobs. My son has looked for a job, and to get one, he has to travel away.
Locally.
Oh yeah, he has to travel away. And the last job he was offered, he's got my grandchild will be 2, and he would be away for 6-7 days a week.
He lives here. Mm-hmm. And where's his job?
This job would have been way up in Pennsylvania. So I did the commute for 6 months to D.C., and that was back in the days before the interstate speed limit was so high. So it was a
What was your
longer
work down there? What was the job?
I worked as a copier repairman, starting out base level electronics. And, done a little bit of everything. I have a plumber's license, an electrician's license. I went back to school and got my electrician's license so I could do wiring for swimming pools and hot tubs. But
What's a couple recent debates in the county? One is over the ambulance fee. The county is about to approve an ambulance fee that would double it from $75 a year to $150 a year. Your take on that? How would you vote on that?
well, it's hard to say how I'd vote on it. I'd have to see I would like to see all the paperwork and see, including the ambulance, how much money's being spent, where it's going, do they really need the money? And it's highly possible that they do, because they're using the same fee that they had however many years ago that was passed. And unfortunately, things have went up in price.
At a couple of these hearings, there are people who are poor in the community who stood up and said, we just can't afford this. You know, you're forcing us into a choice between this and other necessities. What do you say to those people?
That's a good question. I told you I'm kind of on the fence on this one. I'm not a tax person. I don't like taxes to go up at all. And no matter what they want to call it, it is a tax. It's just something I'm going to have to do research if I'm elected and see what's really going on with it.
Where the other debate that flared recently was the school levy, and there were people who were very strongly against it for similar reasons to the.
I was actually against it.
You were against the school levy, and why?
I guess because we homeschooled our children, for one thing.
Kids didn't go to the public schools?
No.
Why did you make that choice? Because we homeschooled through high school. Why did you make that choice?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, partly because of things that are taught, but mainly because I think that children come out to be a little, how do I put this without offending people? There is no way of putting it without offending people. My son is like me, he can do just about anything. And that's because I taught him how to do just about everything. So he knows a little bit about electrician, he knows a little bit about plumbing, he knows a little bit about everything. And that's something that's missing. Everybody, believe me, I love computers. It's great, but not everybody's going to get a tech job. I mean, I haul people that are moving to Seattle all the time for tech jobs. But 20 or 30 jobs that are out there aren't going to help us back here. And
what don't you like that's being taught in the schools?
I'm not a whole math person. I still believe that 1 and 1 is 2, and not what you think it is.
And when you say whole math, this is a new way of teaching math than what we were taught.
The new way, right? Yeah.
The new way.
Well, the new way,
Which
in
is
my
what?
opinion, doesn't work.
What is that? What is the new way?
Well, from what I've read and seen, and I've seen some examples of it, it's exactly what I said. If a child thinks 1 + 1 + 1 is 4, they'll give them a passing mark. That doesn't work.
And so you were opposed to the levy because you didn't want to support.
No, I think I'm opposed to more taxes. I mean, that's my biggest thing. I think there's always something in a budget that can be cut somewhere. And I'm not saying teacher salaries. We're probably underpaying the teachers. I don't know. I don't see those figures. There's always expenditures somewhere.
We've got a minute left. How do you think the campaign is going? And it's Ken Reed, who's got a lot of name recognition and money, yourself, and Jimmy Stewart. Would you have a sense as to how it's going?
Oh, I don't know. I've talked to people. I was just talking with people before I came here, and it's hard to say. Most of the people that I've spoke with seem to agree with me on what I say.
So we'll see on May 10th.
Yes, we will.
Darren Bailey, thank you for coming in.
Barney.
Darren Barney.
Yeah, that's all right.
And thank you for watching This Week in Morgan County.